Tenta solo Tevez al limite dell'area, li fa fuori tutti Tevez, si apre la porta Tevez, gol, da dietro, Pirlo dentro,
Ciao Juventini, welcome back to the All Juve Cast channel, of course, where it's all Juve all the time. We're coming off the defeat
Whatever
there,
that was.
2-0 to Milan, and tempers are spilling over here, and I could see it in the chat already. I got Anthony, I got Omer. We're going to tackle it. We're going to tackle basically all the fans' feelings, because I mean, my God, I got locked into some long discussions just even on Twitter about how Juventini are feeling and whatnot, and I seem to feel a certain way, and there was many that disagreed with me, but we're gonna get into it and see how everybody's doing in the live chat. We'll kick off just saying what's up to everybody. Jeremiah coming in here saying, hey guys, I don't believe for a second this team is not good enough to compete. No solutions from Max. Seesaw season, 13 points from 9 games. Scudetto 95% gone. Drastic measures needed. Okay, so he's weighing in immediately. We have Bikramjeet here saying, I disagree. Number one responsible for this is top management. They've screwed up real good. Second one responsible is players. How can these players can't make a simple pass? Wow.
All great points.
So see some differences already there. Okay, so we will see. And then you have good old Bobby coming in here saying buongiorno Bobby. Okay, thanks for coming in here. We got Sal, buongiorno tutti. And then Sal adding, if that's all our players are capable of, sell them off, build a 7th place team for a 7th place budget, and balance the books. Wow. All right. Well,
and then you have the other side of the spectrum when Dell just fires this baby out. Yeah, Scudetto's gone. Yeah, Champions League, we're done next. You want, and that's the spectrum you're talking about. We got people who are on one side, people way on the other side, and a whole bunch of us sort of in the middle. But hey,
I tell you what,
fair feelings.
After the international break and hoping that things can change, we were all cautiously optimistic, and I think we're being proven to be right in acting, cautiously optimistic after that, because there's a big turnaround that was needed. And we're going to talk about Milan and everything like that. Obviously, Omer here. Omer obviously was at the Maccabi match, over there. And we just want to get Omer's thoughts on that. Everybody talks about the atmosphere and whatnot, and we just want to hear a bit about the experience, Omer. And tell us about it and how it was. And
it was a lot of fun, actually. I enjoyed Turin quite a bit. I had one day there, and I just traveled from the morning till the evening when I went to the stadium. I came from Milan. I was present at the Inter-Barca match before that, so I got to see the San Siro. Fully packed, massive, beautiful, but walking into the Allianz Stadium was just different. I sort of popped my stadium cherry. It's my first time there, so it was different for me. If I was a neutral fan, then I would have said, the San Siro, because of the atmosphere and the full crowd. But as a Juve fan, walking in the first time, magnificent. And besides that, Maccabi Haifa supporters put on quite a hell of a show. Even earlier, they filled the streets with people, so we kind of got all our juices pumping before the match, and just walking the streets of Turin. Had a really nice cab ride with a Juventus fan driver who basically bitched in Italian about Allegri the entire ride over there. And I understood a few keywords, so I know he wasn't praising him. and besides that, it was phenomenal. Got to see a win, which is pretty rare nowadays. So lucky for me, unlike Joe, who experienced a draw or a loss. These days it's a bet. So we got to see a nice Champions League win. The stadium is amazing. Around it, like just walking in there, seeing it from the highway, and then walking in the Juve store, the museum, and just everything around it was quite an experience for the first time. Hard to say, because I come from the same country of Maccabi, so there were a lot of tourists on my plane. So I had a lot of travel issues, and I had to fly to Austria and then Frankfurt and blah blah blah. So a good suggestion is landing in Turin and avoiding that ride from Milan. And don't go to the official Juve store in the streets. Wait for the one in the stadium.
Yeah.
That's my main tip for everyone traveling there. The store in the streets is pretty small and doesn't have much to offer, but the store at the stadium is massive, like everything you want. So fantastic experience, really enjoyed it, and I'm definitely going to do this again.
Amazing.
If no one saw the picture that Omer posted of the items that he purchased at the store, maybe we won't repost it on the main because there's some items in there that are little. But hey, look him up, look up his and see the stuff. He bought everything for the entire family. Good for you.
Very, very nice.
I'm a family man. What can I say?
Glad you enjoyed it, my man. And yeah, you're right. The Maccabi supporters were wild on the streets there and stuff like that. And it's still pretty surreal, regardless of what our atmosphere is with our Juventini. I'll never forget that first moment walking out of the main section out into the seating area, and it's just the way it just opens right up. It's pretty awesome. Now, let's get to the business at hand. Okay, so everybody here on the live, just going to remind everybody that's tuning in on the audio outlets, get over to YouTube and subscribe to the YouTube channel for all the additional content that we're putting out, daily update videos, keeping you in the loop on all Juventus news, and then of course our match day lives. And yesterday I had a watch along, and I have to thank everybody that actually was a part of the watch along. There were people in the comments that said they're not even watching the game, they're literally just listening to me calling it for them because they would rather do something enjoyable and just have me call the action for them. And I had a couple say that it was actually the best Juve called match that they've seen, and that's pretty damn cool. So, hey, you know what? Just keep spreading the word, everybody, because that's how sometimes people make it. And, hey, I'll call Juve games officially. I'll do it. Just keep spreading the word. But, no, honestly, thank you, everybody who joins in on those. I love doing them regardless of the results, and you guys make it awesome. So the live chat was just amazing. So I wanted to make sure I gave a big shout out to everybody that was a part of that. Okay. Now, Milan, Juventus. I said this in the match day live. Okay. Despite the players Milan was missing, I said, look, they still have a good lineup. Okay. That's still a good lineup. We can't just say, oh, there's zero excuses. Like we have to take to them. Like, no, I expected to compete and have a good battle with Milan. And what I expected lasted for about 20 minutes. So unfortunately, that's about as long as I felt we were truly matching up with them. And outside of that, it was Milan started to be the better side and generate the better chances. Hell, outside of the first 20 minutes, we didn't get another opportunity. Okay. We're not even talking about, a scoring chance, anything like that. Opportunity, not one on target or anything. Opportunity until like 75th minute or something like that. And when this happens, it's more to me than just the players. Okay. And when you have 7, 8, 9 guys that are all just completely lost out there and struggling, and we'll get into all the details on what I was seeing that leads me to believe it's more of a bigger issue. Okay. But we'll start off with our lineup. And honestly, I said it in the match day live. You had Szczesny, you had Danilo, Bonucci, Bremer, Sandro. You had Quadrado, Locatelli, Rabiot, Kostic with Milik and Vlahovic up top. I said it makes sense him wanting to go in a 4-4-2 because you want to try to just keep it flat and slow down them on their flanks, which we did good for 20 minutes and whatnot. But overall in the first half, it was okay. Hernandez, I don't think he was 100%, but he wasn't having his way with us. And for the most part, we did okay against Leao as well. However, just the subs, we'll get into all that. It is what it is. Quadrado had to start for me because I wouldn't put McKennie, a center midfielder, as an outside if you're trying to slow down what Milan is going to do on that side. Did
Well,
you
we
guys
saw what
have
happened
any
when he
issues
came
with their starting lineup, with Juve's starting lineup? Anth, any issues
No,
with
I
Juve's
think-
starting lineup?
Yeah, I think you're 100% right based on the players that we had available and the opponent. That was the best lineup to put out there. I didn't have an issue with it.
Yeah, neither did I.
I
Omer?
I just don't get why we keep landing on that default 4-4-2 every time some important match comes in. Because we had a sort of a 3-5-2 in the last two games, and it worked out fine, as well as it could. And then suddenly land back on that formation that hasn't proven itself in any circumstances up until now. But it's sort of seems like it's a default formation that Allegri jumps to. And the minute I saw that, I knew we were going to lose. That it's just not a good way to play anymore. And we keep landing on that, and that frustrates the hell out of me.
I got something again, and this is just a point. Do you think he went away from the 3-5-2 because he was worried that Leao against our two center backs, it wouldn't even, like, if he got through that midfield, he'd eat them alive back there. Having that extra.
If you change your formation just to accommodate one player, then your formation is not good, period. Like, we don't need to change formation because Leao is playing. What will you do when you play Byron and every player in their attacking line looks like that? Will you park the bus from minute 1 to the end?
Yes, that's what we'll do. Yes, that's correct.
I don't have a problem with the 4-4-2 in general. I have a problem with a hybrid 4-4-2 if you're going to play it. Putting a center midfielder as an outside. With Cuadrado out there, it becomes a little bit more natural and a little bit more normal. And honestly, it proved through the first 20 minutes to be successful if we played with the proper, aggression and stopped giving them space. The second we started to give them space and breathing room, it allowed Leao to slowly build up and get into that game. Hernandez started to create issues and whatnot. The second we just had that let up, and I don't know why it happened. I don't know how it happened, but at the very least, defensively, we should have pressured them far more than we did outside of that 20 minutes, because it just allowed them to get comfortable and start to find avenues that they could do damage in.
But is it new? Is it something new? Like, if you were a coach managing your team and you have a game against Juve, you'd watch their previous games and see, okay, let's contain them for 20 minutes, and then they drop off. Like, I don't think it was due to our tactics. I think Milan planned it, because based on all our games this season, that's what happens every game.
But what I'm saying is, regardless of formations, this is happening too. Like, it really doesn't matter ultimately. So if we're just gonna knock on the 4-4-2, we've done it in a 4-3-3. We've done it in a 4-2-3-1. We've done it in a 3-5-2. There's a drop off. There's just more to the problem. And I just don't think the formation or the lineup that we went with was an actual problem, to be honest. Because I saw people saying the personnel was wrong, the setup was wrong and stuff. I don't actually believe it was. I think there's a bigger issue there. That's all I'm saying.
There's a huge issue there, of course.
Because we've seen those struggles with 3-5-2, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. It's this, what we saw yesterday is unfortunately not new by any means, and we've been seeing it too often. We'll just quickly rip through these highlights so we can get into all our thoughts and overviews on the game, okay? Because we started off really good. Winning the ball was key. We were getting to that ball, okay, winning it back and then taking it to them. Cuadrado has the opportunity that, of course, everybody highlighted, and rightfully so, because if you watch this thing back, you freeze frame it right at the side view. He's got two trailers that he can hit on trailing runs. He also has an option to bend a ball behind the defenders to Kostic, who's on the opposite side. Vlahovic is probably the only one. It was either Vlahovic or Milik who he couldn't hit. There was only one that was literally right behind his defender. But there was two trailers, and I think it was Milik and Locatelli, and then Kostic on the far side. By the point he shoots that ball, that looks close on TV until they show the replay, and it's always curling away from goal. You see all four of those guys, okay, with their immediate what the hell reactions. Okay, Kostic, Locatelli, Milik, Vlahovic, all rightfully so. And Cuadrado, this is like, it's at the point where it's just, he cannot start. He just cannot. He has roasted us continuously with selfish decisions and just poor and awful decisions. I even said in the game against Maccabi with Rabiot's goal, his pass was so piss poor there and should have been cut out. We were lucky that the ball even fell to Rabiot, and then we saw the give and go with Di Maria, and he luckily got through that. Otherwise, I would have blown up at him for yet again another wasted opportunity in the final third. Cuadrado right now, this season, I would much rather take growing pains and just deal with whatever happens with Sule, to be honest, because I'm pretty much at my boiling point with Cuadrado. Guys, weigh in on this moment, this opening in Cuadrado, and your thoughts.
Omer?
Just whatever you said is exactly it. I see this photo and I knew how it ended. I missed that opportunity during the game. When I saw the photos on Twitter, I knew exactly how it ended. So it's nothing new. Keeps frustrating. Cuadrado should be a bench player, and yeah, growing pains with Sule is something I prefer at the moment.
Was that in the first 15 minutes? Because I missed the first 15. I didn't go back and watch. So I only saw a good 5 minutes of the game. I was traveling.
The first 15 minutes, Juve were into it. And yeah, this was in the first 15. It was a great opportunity again off us winning the ball quickly and turning it on them. Vlahovic carrying up the front, putting it over to the wing to Cuadrado, and then Cuadrado just seeing his name in the lights yet again, and it just not happening. Sal saying, that's funny. That's funny.
That's pretty good.
Now we get to we continue on, and honestly, we had a little bit more opportunities, but nothing concrete. Juventus finished this game, even though we had a strong 15 opening 20 minutes going back for Milan, 0 big chances created from Juventus. Okay. 10 total attempts. And I will say this, from the 20th minute, we had 5 total attempts. Okay. And we didn't get the 6th until about 76th minute before we got that 6th. We finished with 10 total attempts, but we were at 5 from 20 to 75, 76 minutes. Okay. And we finished the game with 0 big chances. Milik had a header that he put in later in the game. That's not a big chance. Doesn't count.
That was a shot on target, but that was late.
But we'll go through the rest. Corner for Milan, and Leao backheels this thing. Quick reaction play, hits the post, goes out. Lucky for Juventus there.
Okay, hang on with the corner kick. Now, there was a lot of discussion prior to that play with Cuadrado being fouled.
Okay.
In the lead up. So
there was 2. It was even beyond Cuadrado. There was yet another one.
Right. So even though the Fubo TV commentators stink, they brought up the point that said, since it became a corner kick, it was now a different phase of play. I wouldn't be surprised, and I've always wondered this myself, but why a foul that's not called that leads to a corner kick or another free kick isn't reviewed, because that's now another attacking play. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try to introduce something like this next year for VAR to review, to say if there was a foul to lead up to a corner kick. Because a corner kick is I wouldn't say a scoring opportunity, but it's attacking. It's a set piece, right?
Yeah, but you open it up to a lot of controversy.
And that's what
initially you can't stop the play to use VAR for yellow card fouls. Now, was that a red card? If not, then you're not allowed to pause the game and to act on it.
Right. So I agree with you, Omer. What I'm saying is, I think they'll try to. I think teams will say, "Hey, there was a foul leading up to a corner kick. Let's make this reviewable." But like you said, I think there's going to be way too much gray area to say, okay, well, how soon was the foul before the corner kick? And then you take the corner kick, if it bounces around the box and then kicks out and then they score, like how much, right? Does it go in directly from the free kick? Then can you pull it back? I think it would open up too much of a can of worms. So
yeah,
unfortunately, it was a foul that wasn't called.
There were 2 leading up to that one. The Hernandez one was the worst and should have been a yellow card if we're being serious here. Regardless, I mean, it is what it is. Corner kick, Leao, back heels it, up the post. I didn't like, this was another thing. When that drop-off starts to happen for Juventus, I started to see something that drives me absolutely crazy with any team. They started lobbying for every single damn call, and they started pouting and they started hitting the ground and always just turning to the ref, throwing their arms up. Play the goddamn game. Don't worry about what's out of your hands. You can't control that little idiot in the yellow shirt that's having a shocker, okay? But what you can control is your own actions, how you play, your attitude, and your approach. And we just are too friggin' soft. We're way too soft. I hate when I see Juve play in that manner. And unfortunately, after about that moment, it just happened, and it wasn't one player, okay? It was Kostic, it was Locatelli, it was Vlahovic, it was Quad. They were all doing it. And it just, it got to a point where I was actually like disgusted on the watch along. I was like, if they keep this up and keep like pissing about and pouting, I'm actually might shut this thing down. That drives me crazy. Did you guys notice that as well? I would assume you guys noticed that flux where we just started worrying about the ref and not the actual game ahead of us.
It's been a problem for a while. Like someone put in here, that's like Sal makes a good point. You know, when you look for fouls, that's a sign of a lack of
exactly.
It's true, right? You're looking for help when, like, normally we look at Inter, we look at Milan, we say, oh, look at these guys diving and looking for calls. I didn't see much of that yesterday from the red and black.
Yeah,
they fought through everything. They fought for every ball, and they tried to win every ball first. We didn't.
Yeah,
they were running. Juve were playing standing. If I was a neutral fan, I would have thought Vlahovic and Milik are playmakers, because every ball ends up at their feet at the halfway line, and they're supposed to shift the game somewhere. They are strikers. They're supposed to strike the ball into the goal, and the playmaking is non-existent. Absolutely non-existent.
Yeah. We had a couple Milan fans in the watch along, actually quite respectful, and it was good. And they said they didn't watch a lot of Juve this year, whatnot, but they reiterated everything we do on a weekly basis. They were just like, we're shocked at how easy Milan can create against you guys, and it looks like you guys have no like set style or system or whatever. Yeah, that's pretty much Juve in a nutshell right now. So I'm like, you may as well have been watching us all year long, because that's what we feel like and that's what we see. So anyways, we get out this. Leao gets another rip from just outside, and actually this is the one Vlahovic leans over, and they were looking at for a handball, but he's got his arms a bit. Yeah, he just kind of pokes it out a bit, but honestly, there's not much more you can do as a player. It would have been pretty chintzy, I thought, if they were going to call that. They didn't. Play continues on. Leao, again, like I said, we started giving space. Everything we were doing good in the opening, which was taking their space away, forcing them backwards, stopped. Leao, he's like 24 yards out and just allowed to take a look and line up a rip, and nobody was pressuring the ball. And I'm like, guys, you can't let this guy just shoot openly. He does. Hits the outside of the post. Szczesny wouldn't have got there. Okay, that thing was dipping and swerving out. It was a hell of a rip off the post. So 2 posts already. Then you get to the corner kick, and Mr. Juan Cuadrado himself is the first guy to that ball, and it should have been cleared easily, and we can regroup. He misses it. It goes in there. There's a scramble. Obviously, a shot from the back hits Tomori, stops perfectly for him, and just he turns and fires it into the cage. This should have never happened, because Cuadrado should have just easily handled it. The other thing is too, what led up to that corner kick was our own just nonsense of play and scrambling to even just hold possession at that time. Frustrating, but is what it is. 1-0 down. We're gonna rifle through these guys. Okay, halftime 1-0 Milan. Again, I just felt like half of that half was good. You guys agree? half of the half was good for Juve, and then outside of that, Milan started to take control.
All downhill.
You could feel hard done by to go down 1-0 at half, but honestly, like towards the end, Milan was the better side. Okay.
And I'll just put something in now, which applies to the whole game. I don't feel Milan really threatened. Like, our defense wasn't really under any pressure at any point, right? You had the corner kick, and then we'll get to the bonehead play that led to the second goal. But like, realistically, like, people make it sound like our team was completely awful yesterday. I thought we were okay at the back. If there's any positive to take away from this game, I thought we were okay because we didn't really give them anything like close range. Like Szczesny didn't really have a lot of work to do. But anyway, it was still awful. But at the back,
Omer?
Yeah, I gathered the stats of everything related to that, but I'll get to them when we recap the entire match.
Okay. Listen, it's just like, I get what you're saying, Anth, and I would agree. Like, we weren't put wave after wave after wave.
Right.
But they did create things rather effortlessly, and we allowed them a little too much space to get comfortable. The second they found that goal, you could see it all over the body language. You could see it all over the players' faces. These guys don't believe. They just don't.
I agree with that.
They just don't believe. Walking into their first reaction was walking up to the ref. That was the first reaction of 5 guys, and 3 of them are experienced veterans. I don't want to see that shit. Get your team, get your asses into the locker room, sort it out, come back, and get back to the opening 20 minutes of play. Mm-hmm. Don't walk up to the goddamn ref. It's just, we're so fragile. This is not a Juve I'm accustomed to see them or like seeing. So it's frustrating to me to see them like that. In the second half, we're going to fire this through outside of the, awful pass from Vlahovic. This is the Vlahovic scenario, okay? He's got Locatelli. He's got Milik that's ahead of Luca by like probably 10 yards. And then you've got Bonucci that's at the back in between them in his line of sight. He literally puts this ball between all of them in no man's land. And
perfectly between
Brahim Diaz just runs onto it. Let's carry forward. Bonucci stands there, and that is the best impression of a pylon I've seen in years because he gets absolutely dusted. You know what, man? Take him down. Stand in front of him. Just block the body. Take your card. Like, the fact that you just stand there is mind-blowing to me.
Yeah. So
even raised his hands like I didn't touch him in case he falls down.
Yeah, he tried to hit him. So here's my thing. We had a big discussion on this one after the game in the group chat. So here's my thing on that. Yeah, I got you. If it's a split-second decision that he has to make, if he takes him down there, he runs the risk of a red card, and that game is absolutely over. We take a red card there, that game is over. It's
not a red if you're at that moment when he has to make that decision. It's a yellow.
He doesn't know. He sees that it's the striker.
The player's in front of him, man.
If it's in front of him, it's not a red.
It's a yellow. That's a professional yellow. That's a professional yellow.
But he's not the last man. If it's if the attacking player is the last man between him and the goalkeeper.
Let's just pump the brakes. You now put it in the hands of the VAR to decide if he's the last man. So there is a potential that the VAR would review that and deem that a red card. I agree. There's an angle of another defender who may have been able to get there. Could be a yellow. I understand that. But he takes him down there. He has to make a decision that he potentially may be the last man. Take a red, that game is over. So he did try and trip him. There is a still shot of him trying to get there. But I said, you got to do more to sort of like jockey, like backtrack, sort of slow him down. But he made the wrong decision.
In that moment, it's ball or man. One can get by you, both can't.
Both cannot. I agree. or at least slow him down.
And that's the time where, you know what, you take a foul and you deal with the consequences, because ultimately it's still Vlahovic's bad, because it's absolutely ridiculous. And Vlahovic, that's one of probably 15 to 18 that he just made, that he just absolutely dusted for passing. Like, Vlahovic was shocking with the passes in follow up to his hold up play. It was brutal.
That's not his game. He would, like Lex was saying it in the whole chat like during the game. Him and Milik and Omer just said that they were playing way too low to have to collect at their backs and like distribute. Like, that's not his game.
Yeah, I
agree. Going back to the Bonucci thing, I agree with you, Berto. I really, really do. I'm just saying, Bonucci, my guess is that in that split second, he had to make a decision to say, you know, the only way I could slow him down and potentially not get a red card is to kind of get in his way. I think he made the wrong decision. He should have at least backtracked, slow him down, because Milik was on a tear to try and, make up for it.
It's frustrating. Anyways, I mean, yeah, we want to blow through these. We'll blow through the rest, okay? Because it's 2-0. Brahim Diaz finishes. In the follow-up to that, too, Milik makes a hell of a run back, slides. He's late. Sandro stops a little bit, hesitates because Milik comes in, slides. Then Bremer can't get over. Look, Szczesny gets a piece of it. Not enough. It goes in. It's 2-0. Milan continues getting good opportunities. Hernandez was sent through. Obviously tried. Szczesny did well getting out there, stopping that. He tried to clip it or chip it over the top to the back. Couldn't get it in. Keane comes in, and when Keane is a bright spot, it shows you where the team was at yesterday, because Keane came in. He did very, very well. He worked hard for himself. Had a good 1-2 with Milik. Opportunity gets blocked, goes out for a corner. Outside of that, Origi again gets in, forces a point-blank save from Szczesny. So Milan just, at that point, Juve was done. You could see it. You could read it. It was over. There was nothing happened. And I wanted a goal. We got nothing. And honestly, in this game, we got what we deserved, in my opinion, which was absolutely nothing out of it. That's how I feel. Brief overview of the whole game. I think there are bigger problems than just our players, and we continue to attack players. We're going to get Omar and Anthony's overview before I get into all the aftermath topics we are going to get into, okay? So who wants to lead us off on their overview of this whole thing? Let's let Omar kick it off.
I took Max's quote after the match, and it kind of infuriated me. If you're getting to the press conference later, then I'll wait with it.
No, we can get into this even right in the overview. Omar, go ahead.
Okay. So basically what Max said, I'm sorry, I've written it down because there's stats here. Max said we didn't suffer from almost anything except for Leao's crossbar and Tomori's goal, which could have been avoided, like Brahim Diaz. Now, that is the most detached thing I heard, detached from reality about how Juve played. Because that will lead you to believe we played a good game and we were up to scrap, and just 2 unlucky chances got in the net. Now, Milan surpassed Juve on every attacking stat there could be. 21 threats on goal, 10 for Juve, 14 threats from inside the area, 8 for Juve, 3 shots on target, 2 goals after that. 2 crossbars for Milan, 9 corners, 3 to Juve. And for those of you who like the XG stat, 2.28 for Milan, 0.77 Juve.
Ooh.
Which means that it basically measures the quality of the opportunity you get. So Milan's were far better. Now, if Allegri is saying that, and considering everything, all the games against the top side, which we won only one of them, basically in the past 2 seasons, like, is that man is he even talking about what's happened? Does he know how bad the situation is? Because I can't keep listening to we played well and just unlucky. This isn't the situation, and either he's lying to us, either he's lying to himself, the players, the management. I don't know who, but it seems like the issues don't get addressed. Come flat out, said we were bad, and do whatever you have to do, but stop lying to all of us that we played good.
Just call it for what it is and be honest and
Yeah.
upfront, because honestly, it's just excuses and it's just noise at this point.
This
And
was-
nobody read the room. He's never read the room, but it's just funny because he gets called out on what he was saying about, well, you take players away from these teams, they're going to struggle too. Here's Milan with a long list. Like I said, they still had a good lineup in there, but they just continue to keep plugging away and doing their thing and not making excuses. And it's just, for me, that's all it is. It's excuses. What Max was talking about earlier in the season in terms of, well, we need Di Maria, we need Pogba, we need Chiesa. You know what? We do, because he has not put anything together with the rest of the guys. So unfortunately, this faith in these guys making it right is what we need to cling to, because he can't get it together with the rest of them. And the players themselves are not putting it together without those guys. So the sad reality is he is become right, because that's all he could seem to do without them. Ant, I'm going to let you go in here now.
Yeah, I wonder if the suffering thing was, if I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it, and sometimes the translations can be a little off. But maybe he was talking about, like, we didn't give up a lot of chances from Milan. Like, that's what he meant by suffering. But either way, you're right, Omer. Sometimes I just wonder what the translations mean. But yeah, if that's what he meant, then yeah,
The
there's
translation is just watching the game. If you lose and don't create against a depleted Milan side who never got out of second gear, then you didn't play good. Period.
Yeah,
fair enough. The one thing that you didn't touch on with the stats that I actually had highlighted on my notes was 0 counterattacks. That was something that we were able to do in the last 2 games against those dumpy sides that we played. For me, this game was, like I said before, I thought we played okay at the back, but there was no connection between the 3 lines, right? There was no connection between the defense, the midfield, and the strikers. There was no buildup of play. Like, there was no passing triangles through the middle. Everything always seemed to be like Locatelli trying to complete a 20-yard pass to Vlahovic's feet, right? Or 20 yards minimum. Like, I didn't really see any buildup whatsoever. Like, no creativity, which has been a curse that we've had for quite a while. Shockingly, we had 60% possession. I don't know how that happened. Not that, and Al and I, you were talking about this before the show. That doesn't really mean anything, but I was just surprised that we had that much possession and really just did nothing with it. Because I don't remember the last time we had that much possession in a Serie A match.
And it's interesting because I always update that as we go through the watch along. And at halftime, so in the opening 20 to 25 minutes, Juventus had 59% possession. They were at 60%. After that 20 minutes, the half ended. It was 51% Juve, 49% Milan, until Milan got comfortable. And then all of a sudden, Juve's possession just went up because Milan felt no threat. There was no threat. So even that in its own is misleading. But possession on its own matters nothing if you can't do something with it. And again, this is a story that follows Juventus in terms, well, not leading possession, but just being able to create and build up properly against teams that are set up. Ant hit the nail on the head in terms of Bologna, who I thought was worse than Monza. And I said that after that victory. I said, look, Bologna to me was worse than Monza, but we needed the win. Let's take it. Let's move on. Against Maccabi, I thought the scoreline flattered us because they hit a couple bars or posts, and I think they actually played very well in the second half. And I think it was a flattering scoreline. We still could have had way more goals, but we're not clinical enough. So there was this false sense of hope that I think many Juventini got out of those 2 matches. For me, I like the attitude, I like the intentions we had, but it didn't, carry forward outside of 20 minutes against Milan. But the biggest thing is the attitude shifted against Milan into one of the worst attitudes you can have, which is looking for help in the wrong places, referee and whatnot like that. So for me, that drives me nuts. I put out a tweet and I want to talk about it because for me, this is how I'm starting to feel. And again, it leaves me to unfortunately feel that we have to bank on Di Maria now that his suspension's over and when Chiesa returns, and at some point Pogba, because when you have Kostic, who was awful, Vlahovic, poor, McKennie, pretty much useless. McKennie got muscled off the ball by Tonali. Tonali is a hell of a midfielder, but McKennie is a much bigger guy than Tonali. And he got muscled off like nothing. Leverage. It's not even like they were contention. Like Tonali literally tossed him aside like nothing in a moment. And I was just like, that pretty much sums it up for me when you are losing battles so easily. And you came on as a sub, McKennie. Mm-hmm. You came in at 45th minute half and you're getting muscled off like nothing by Tonali, who's smaller than you and has been playing for the whole first half. Anyways, Paredes changed absolutely nothing. We roast Locatelli, and he had some errant passes. He was also responsible in the 20 minutes for a lot of the counters that we gained from him and Rabiot winning balls. But again, Miretti, absolutely awful when he came in. But I'm not going to go hard on the 19-year-old, is what it is. And I'm not going to go hard on too many of the guys, because when you list this many players, there's a bigger problem for me than continuing to attack players and individuals. For me, this team, when Milan got comfortable, if you see positionally, if you watch this game, I watched it over, it's shocking.
Really?
Yeah, I did. Because I couldn't believe what I was seeing at watch along, that I had to just go back. So I went back to certain sections of the match, and no doubt the positioning was so brutal. You had moments where Locatelli was actually back further than our center backs. You had him out on the right flank, Cuadrado moving in, Danilo all of a sudden ahead of Locatelli right flank. It was like, where are these players going and what are they doing? And to be honest, none of them knew. I don't think any of them knew. Okay? None of them knew. The positional freewheeling, the amount of players struggling, and then when you start asking for help from the referee, leads me that they have no fallback plan. They have no system. There's nothing there for them to gather belief in. So this team's belief right now is Di Maria and Chiesa, and when Pogba comes back. And that's the sad reality that we're facing right now. Because when we play lesser teams, and I'm tired of hearing this player thing and attacking players, because we get outclassed by teams with far less quality. So we have to stop these excuses for Max. He's not putting it together. And there have been matches where Di Maria has been in the lineup and we've looked just as disorganized and poor. So I can't have it. I can't have it. I can't have us continuously attacking players. When there's 9, 10 of them throughout a game that are brutal, there's bigger problems. What do you guys think? That's my big rant.
Yeah, I kind of feel like Allegri is throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks. Nothing makes sense to me. When we attack, we don't have enough players in attack. When we defend, we're always missing players, but there's no one in the midfield all the time. So where is everybody? Why is everyone always where they're not supposed to be? Like you said, it's a formational thing. Everyone looks confused. Then McKennie slots in at right wing. Then you take out Kostic, and Miretti slots in at left wing. And at one point, you have 4 central midfielders and 1 right winger in Sule, and it's just a mess. It's a horrible mess that I like looking at tactics. I like analyzing what teams do, and I'm just, I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what I'm seeing, who should be where. Danilo pops in the midfield all the time, and he's alone there. So where are the other 4 midfielders that are on the pitch? It's just a mess. And keep attacking players. Like, look at all the players we have and the players that have come in recent 2-3 years, how they performed for their clubs before they came to Juve, and all the players who left and how they perform at other clubs. That tells me something is wrong with us. It's not a coincidence that they all are doing great or did great before coming to Juve. The system is broken. And when the system is broken, no one flourishes. When the system is good, take Napoli, for example, or Milan, for example, any youngster, any player thrown in there will make it. because it's a good nurturing ground. It was in the past with Juve, where players like Giaccherini and Peluso and the Chelier can converge and be better than they are. But when things don't work, these are not the type of guys who will save you. You can't bank on your players' ability. It's not a national side. It's a team who needs to play together week in, week out.
Yeah, if you're gonna succeed either in Champions League or Serie A, you have to be able to get points on the road. A point. It's okay to get. I was okay with the draw today. I even said last week, and I said I put in the pregame show. I saw this game as a draw, and a draw would have been fine away to Milan. It would have been okay, but the last 9 games, going back to last year, away games, Juventus is 3 draws and 6 losses. We have no wins in the last 9 away games. That's a problem. That's a big, big problem. And we have 3 losses in a row away from home. So
Al said before, every game is an away game. Even the home games feel like away games.
Right.
So technically we have won some away games. So
Yeah.
we won those at home, and those are away games. Okay. Almost.
Well, anyways, you know what I mean. You got to get points away from home, and Allegri's just not putting it together.
It's like, look, this is what there's
a lot of
someone on social media. When I put that tweet out, I was immediately rebutted with, well, what about the 3 games we played great? And I was like, I'm still waiting to see these 3 great games we played. We've had good halves of the season. I go, what are you talking about? We haven't even played 3 since the international break. I go, you had Maccabi who took it to us in the second half. But is that your good game? And that was one of the good games they were counting. I was like, okay, whatever, cool, I'll give you that. Bologna was worse than Monza. Where are these good games? Where are these good games? Here's a little reality for people, basically. Big games since Max has come back to Juventus. Okay.
This is not going to be good.
3 games versus Milan, 4 versus Inter, 2 against Napoli, 2 against Atalanta, 2 games against Villarreal, 2 against Chelsea, 1 against Benfica, 1 against PSG. 17 matches, 1 win.
Yeah, the Chelsea game, right?
1 win.
I think there was a draw in there too, right? We drew.
No, there are some draws. We drew with Villarreal the first game, and we drew with Milan once. But the draw is just as bad as the loss at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, any way you slice it, these games are measuring stick games. And Juventus has continued to fail in them since Max has returned. We have arguably gotten worse in his tenure. He himself says, we got back to this when he was out of a job, 6 months, he says a coach should have a team playing with his ideas. He never made mention, well, it depends on your players. And now all of a sudden it does. But no, 6 months to get your ideas through. Your ideas are planted in this team, Max. And I truly believe that a coach, the way players act, the way their demeanor is, their attitude, their body language is basically coming from the coach. Okay. Like, they are a reflection of you as a coach. And for me, they're failing completely. Okay. In all the measuring stick matches. And not only that, but the ones that shouldn't be measuring stick matches, we're getting outclassed by teams with far less talent. We got to get over these excuses. I think Sal's comment was perfect. It's turned into fino alla fine to, well, what you need to understand is, and that sums it up. Like,
yeah,
what are we doing here? I've never seen somebody so protected as Max Allegri. And this rebuttal, this back and forth that happened on Twitter, kept it respectful, obviously, because that's one thing I always ask. Anybody can disagree. Just keep it respectful. And it was respectful discussion. But what ended up happening was it went back to, well, this success and in the past and all this. Hey, stop living in the past. We're in the now, and he's failing. He is failing us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I know the answer, and I will be the first to admit bringing in another coach doesn't guarantee immediate success and results. It doesn't. But how far are we willing to go before recognizing there needs to be bigger change or there's bigger issues? Because if we're out of the Scudetto race very soon, if we get bounced out of Champions League and whatnot, do we just throw in the towel on the season? There's already people throwing in the towel on the season. I'm not like that, and I don't believe in that. And you're not going to change the entire roster. So maybe a coaching change just for the sheer sake of sparking something in these players and saying, hey, look, this guy's gone, and you guys are partly responsible for that. And you see this in sports all the time, whether you follow football, hockey, everything. You see it.
Mm-hmm.
You see coaches take the heat, and that comes with the territory in order to spark that change.
Yeah, the stats just aren't really helping Max out. And Al, you and I, we've talked about this a lot, and Omer's been here for a lot of it. Like, changing a coach is never something that you want to do, right? It causes like a lot of upheaval, and especially with other teams, individuals in the management. Like, you don't want to do that. But just the results and, the stats that we've been spitting out, and just plainly just looking at what's happening on the field, it's getting hard. So for me, I'm not an Allegri in guy. I'm not an Allegri out guy. I am a Juventus supporter. I could care about any other team. So you guys all know that about me. But it's getting hard to justify or defend Allegri, to say, give him time. Well, it's so disconnected that it's easy for me to say, well, I think just a change might be needed. And I know some people are saying, well, Agnelli, like, we need to get something straight here. He's not going anywhere. Agnelli's not going anywhere. Now, could he step aside and put more of the business on Cherubini and Arriva Bene? I think he's already doing that. I don't know how much of a fingerprint he has on this team other than Allegri, which is, that's a big fingerprint. But I don't know how much he has in terms of, say, players. I know he can sign off on what those people request. So Agnelli isn't happening. And I don't know how much of a change that would happen if he leaves anyways. But definitely getting back to Allegri, it's good. It's getting hard to defend him. It's getting really hard.
It's getting very, very difficult. And, that battle that I was having with that person, it turned into them essentially continuing to just defend Allegri. I said, look, you are arguing me defending Allegri, not realizing that I don't give a shit who the coach is.
Yep.
I don't give a shit that his name's Max Allegri. I could care less who the coach is. What I need is I need results, and I need a team to make progress. And I said, the man you're defending, in his own words, 6 months is enough for a coach to have his ideas translated. I go, he's had 16, and he's had a say in our mercado. Okay. I just can't have it anymore. It's everything that you're telling me is excuses and noise. And the Juve I've been brought up with and grown to love is not one that makes excuses. That's for our rivals. That's for the Chihuahua teams out there that keep bitching year in, year out when we're at the top. Okay. The excuses are for them. I'm done with excuses. Okay. So I need some change. Eric came in saying that, you know what? Sometimes these coaching changes need to be made just for the simple, fresh ideas and just enthusiasm. And there are pros to making coaches. It's not that it's all bad. And like I said, in all sports, and hey, it comes with the territory. You don't think Max signed up knowing? Like, all these coaches know that their time could end like that, and especially at the big clubs that take themselves seriously and have high ambitions. They don't wait.
That's exactly the line for a club like Juve. A club is supposed to be ambitious and challenge on all fronts. The line should be, if you finish below 5th place, that's it. You're gone. That's not what we expect. Now, I might be exaggerating a bit, but if we're looking at the past season and the start of this season, if you give him more time, like, what will happen? Are you seeing anything that is a good idea and doesn't work and needs time to work on, or just seeing the same stuff sticking to the wall and hoping they stay there? So Real Madrid, Zidane won Real Madrid 3 Champions League in a row, first ever. Came into his second stint, had COVID, me through it. As soon as he wasn't up to scruff with what Real Madrid are aiming for, he was cut out. That's it.
Yeah.
Go home and we'll bring someone else in. And I don't see Juve firing Allegri. That's the saddest part of it. Everyone is saying together, all the newspapers, all the reporters, it's not in our plans to fire Allegri. Making Champions League qualification would guarantee us more money than we lose by sacking Allegri.
Yeah.
And then right now we're risking both because he still has a contract for 4 years, so we might miss out on the Champions League and have to fire him.
Yeah. Sad reality that we might have to face, but man, I
we'll know
tell
in November.
you, like, their fans are fired up, and rightfully so, to be honest. But yeah, I don't know. Everybody's guess as to what the right moves are and what to do and whatnot, but it's very, very difficult. Want to take a second, just a breather here before we get into Storm the Barn. Everybody, take a second. Okay, like the video.
Relax.
Just hit that thumbs up. It doesn't
Relax.
take long. Okay, if you're looking for ways to support the channel, you guys are all amazing. We have super chat enabled, super thanks enabled through the chat. You can do that, or also check out our store that's linked with us on YouTube. There's 15% off. I think today's the last day, and we've got the new ADP 10 designs out with the king crown on it. Okay, obviously King of Turin. We've got the new Principinos out there, and then of course that famous victory timeline from Juve's comeback against Inter. So if you're into some cool custom merch and support the channel, check it out. But let's get those likes up. And when this podcast ends, if you could take a second and just put a comment in the video, that helps us out a lot too. Okay. And it could be anything.
If I see a comment in there about hashtag Skanga out, I'm going to be pissed. Because I know Jeremiah
actually, that's
that.
the perfect comment, everybody. Hashtag Skanga out. When the video ends, drop it in there. Okay. I'll settle for Lucci out. Now, let's get to some Storm the Barn. Everybody's firing up. They don't even wait for the cues anymore, and I just love it. Okay, so Faye's coming in here just basically saying, question, do you realize, like I do, there's a gap between Allegri and the management, how Allegri is working alone, even if he's wrong so far in many decisions, but why the management are quiet?
I don't know if they're quiet.
Essentially, it comes down to, are we seeing a disconnect in... basically, I think he's almost asking, like, why is upper management so quiet on the whole thing? We haven't heard a whole lot, but I don't think they're really been asked a whole bunch. Nedved's probably the latest coming out saying that Max was never in doubt or in question, but that has proven to be a kiss of death from old Pavel. When he gives you the nod of approval, it usually means see you later shortly after.
He said it before the Milan match. He says that we have he said something along those lines. Lou shared it. He said something about we have no intentions of changing Allegri at the moment. All of us in the group chat were like, whoa.
Yeah. I honestly don't think they're planning on moving Max.
So my comment about the management, I said this a long time ago. It's like watching that couple in pajama pants in the chips aisle at Walmart arguing. You're just like, you don't want to see that because you look disconnected. You look like a bunch of idiots. You don't want to see your club management arguing or having disconnects in public. Like that doesn't bring unity to the club. I'm no doubt there's arguments behind the scenes. I have no doubt about that. But you don't want that stuff to be aired in the media like you see the pajama pant couple in the chips aisle at Walmart. Like it looks ridiculous. And I wouldn't want to see
public
it.
Come on.
Yeah. It was never Juve's
You know
style.
exactly what I'm talking about, though.
Yeah, but it was never Juve's style, Juve's management style,
right.
Talking too much.
Right.
And we leave that to the rest of Serie A. Even Milan with Berlusconi at the time, De Laurentiis yaps about God knows what. And Juve has always been quiet and worked behind the scenes, so it's not surprising to me. But I'm sure heads are flying every day.
I would like to commend Nedved for shifting his anger into some beverages and the company of beautiful women.
Hey, we all need an outlet.
Because if there's one way I could have thought to spend the Milan match, it'd probably be with my beautiful wife and sharing some beverages and having a good time, dance and whatnot. So good for Pavel. Good for Pavel. Yeah. Storm the Barn. Thoughts? Max is the worst manager in world football at the moment based on value, salary, wages, okay, because I was going to say, well, worst, but based on pay grade and is he the worst? The Italian-only manager mentality Juve must stop. First step to progress, in my opinion. Is he the worst for those upper echelon managers? I don't necessarily think so. Still,
yeah, I agree with that.
You do? You think he's the worst of the
top bracket managers out there who are considered serial winners? Yeah, absolutely. The amount, like Allegri out is the most trending hashtag in the world in the past few, I don't know how long. Like everyone is talking about it. Every sports anchor, everyone is tweeting about Juve. Like half a year ago, it was about United. We jumped them. Everyone is discussing what's happening to Juve. It means this thing hasn't gone unnoticed. Everyone is realizing something is bad, and I don't like he says, the wages, the salary, the what we see on the pitch, can't hide it. Can't hide it.
to be
Max
honest,
is massively underperforming.
We can't really use the hashtag thing. I mean, Juve, everybody loves to see Juve suffer and lose. Like, it's always been us against the world. This is part of my frustration into why any manager, let alone Max, can't motivate a Juventus side, because it is always literally us against the world. And in moments like yesterday's match where some of the calls may not go our way, we should have the toughness to get right beyond that and fight through. And right now, mental toughness is not that of a Max Allegri side. But in terms of worst of the upper managers, right now, currently at the top clubs for all managers, yes, he is by far the worst.
Oh, yeah.
Right now, currently, right now, of all the big teams and their managers, he's the worst. And his numbers do it. It's not me because I'm saying it. It's the facts of the actual numbers and what's going on. So
when we start comparing to mid-table teams, it's a bad sign for us, to mid-table managers and not the upper echelon. We should be addressing him as an upper echelon manager. If we start comparing him with Dionisi and Sotil and stuff, that says a lot about where Juve is at right now.
Yeah. Hold on.
Deleting some of these.
I know. I'm trying to. There's so much coming in. Sorry.
I think you and I were clicking on the same ones.
Play again, continually caught with the ball. What's the cause of this? We saw it in Sarri, then Pirlo, now Allegri. It's catastrophic. So again, I think they were all different, though. There was all different seasons, all different feelings. Like, those teams all played differently. Like, Sarri's season was not the same as Pirlo's. The coaches changed, but there was different struggles. I thought, like, Pirlo's team generated the most opportunities, even more than Sarri's, way more than Allegri's. And we controlled all but like 3 or 4 games in terms of like possession and whatnot, but we were leaky at the back. But still, defensively, his stats weren't far off from Allegri's first year in return defensively. So everybody said there was this massive improvement defensively. I don't know if it maybe felt that way or felt that way on the eyes, but numerically and statistically, it was very, very close between the two. Look, for me, I can only speak to what I'm seeing right now. And right now, again, I just see a team that doesn't have ideas. They're not really in sync, and there's not a whole bunch of chemistry when teams clamp down on us. And it's funny because I said after Maccabi, I said, Di Maria, I still don't like the fact we're so reliant on him, because a lot of that game was get the ball to Di Maria and see what happens. If you look at the number of touches across that Maccabi game, it was wild how many touches Di Maria to the rest of the team. Like, doubled up our regista, doubled up our midfielders. Like, it was the Di Maria show. And I think that's what we're banking on the rest of the season. And my God, hopefully it works out, because that's what it's going to be. In terms of the players and with the ball, this is another reason why yesterday I'm a little reluctant to just shit on all our players, because half the time they're getting the ball, nobody's in the right position that they need to be. There's no options there. And how many times did our players get dispossessed, especially in the midfield, Rabiot and Locatelli, where they were looking and the options just weren't there. And they ended up trying to hold it just so somebody could get there. The legs stopped moving. So when your legs quit, you stop moving, it's either because you're gassed, you're exhausted, and we shouldn't be at just 20 minutes into a game, or you're just not understanding where the hell you need to be and where the options need to be. So I fail to believe that a team, just can be this unorganized. Really. There's a lot of issues. I see bigger issues than players. But I don't know. You guys want to weigh in on that one?
I'm trying to keep up with the chat here, man.
Dude, the chat's just on fire right now.
I'll just say I see players holding onto the ball for too long, which slows our progress, basically. We always pass back, which is a bad sign. Like if we're going out on a counter, start running, pass it back, you let the other team get back into position, and that's it. All elements of surprise is lost. And we find it hard as it is to progress into the other team's area. We can barely complete 2 passes in the opponent's half. So the slowness of the game comes down to, I see, either tactics or Quadrado or Bonucci or Rabiot or whoever just holding on to the ball too much. And we're out of quick thinkers, players who make stuff happen quickly. Dybala was like that. Pjanic was like that. We used to have those types of players. Di Maria is like that. But like you said, we can't bank on one player to do this for us all game long, all season long.
Yeah.
Tactics, basically. Just tactics.
There's some questions going on about, that one.
Yeah,
this
so
one's kind of...
Is Agnelli the main culprit for this situation? It seems to me that his knowledge of football is pretty slim. Plus, we had 400 million euro capital increase, yet we are 250 million euros in the red. What the fuck is happening? Okay, so...
Yeah, address the 400 million first.
So that 400 million... that actually got chewed up by COVID.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, when we were getting that bond, it immediately got crushed by COVID. There were bigger plans for that in terms of the rebuild and whatnot, and that changed everything drastically. 250 million euros in the red. Juve always operates somewhere around 80 to 100 in the red. So operating in the red is not necessarily, it's not anything new, and it's not anything to necessarily be terribly concerned with. The additional 150, 170 is a bit of a problem, especially when you look at our current form of results. As far as Agnelli being the main culprit for the situation overall in general, he cannot be cleared of what's going on. I mean, there's some things he directly affects, okay, and that was his decision with what's going on stadium and all that, but that's not the sole reason. The ultras not being there is not the sole reason for that. Financials of tickets and everything like that. So it was interesting because we were getting questions last time, Ant, about ticket prices and whatnot, and I said, look, I can't see this big gap between Inter AC, who have the San Siro, which is double the capacity of Allianz, and I started looking into it. So the cheapest season ticket you can get at Juve is 650 euros. Okay. For a season ticket.
30 euros a match?
320
euros a match.
325 euros is the cheapest you can get for Milan. But the most expensive, Juve's most expensive season ticket is actually less than Inter NAC's highest season ticket price. In terms of how much they have for season tickets, both AC and Inter have around 40,000 season tickets purchased, which is close to half of the San Siro's capacity. Juve is still at about half the capacity of Allianz. They sold about just shy of 21,000 in season tickets. So percentage-wise and everything like that, they're in there. and their season tickets are a little bit more. Ticket pricing slightly more for Juventus overall, but there's bigger problems. It's not just the money, it's not just the prices. For them, though, over there in Europe, because face value of a ticket, like for instance, Joe that was just there, the face value of his ticket was 70 euros. For us, we're accustomed to paying that. You go to an NFL game, you go to like an NHL game, that's pretty much what you're paying. Actually, a little bit more. But over there, that's a big deal for them. And it's in contrast.
So if you look at it, so 638 euros by 38 games is 16 euros a match. But that's the cheapest, right? You're probably way up there. So
yeah,
that's not terrible.
It's not terrible. It's not terrible. But again, like, I don't know. It's just in contrast, the prices are pretty much right there, like between Milan and all and these guys and whatnot. So it's, for me, it's there's bigger problems. And Agnelli, the football knowledge, I said this, if he remains right now, because he's got to take responsibility for shifting to Pirlo, which was his move, and then shifting to Allegri immediately after. That's Agnelli. Like, Agnelli was the one that's like, no, we're done with this. We're done with sorry, we're not bringing in Pirlo. He's going to make 1 million, whatever. He's going to coach. Like, we're convinced by his thesis and all this. And after talking to him, when he was hired to be the U23 coach, he should have just, like, that wasn't fair to even Pirlo. And you should never, at Juventus, again, we go back to what Omer was talking about earlier, ambitions of big top clubs. You don't put a guy who's never managed a game at the helm for a big club. You don't do that. And Agnelli did that. And then after the 1 year, he followed it up by going back to Allegri, which is now proven after 16 months to not be working whatsoever. Not at least for me. Good. He has to take some accountability. He has to. He absolutely has to. There's a big problem there. And again, if we're going to ride this thing out, I just hope it doesn't drop to who knows what kind of depths. But your guys' thoughts on Agnelli. Omer?
That was long. I don't even remember the question.
The question, I know. Well, the question was, is he the main culprit for the situation?
He might be. Like, who else can you blame? As a chairman of anything, you should be the first one to take responsibility. And when we know that he made these decisions, starting from the Curva, Marotta, changing the logo, and Sarri, Allegri, Pirlo, blah, 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 all that. He had a hand in all of that, especially in bringing in Ronaldo. Like, who can say he's not guilty to some degree? Maybe not 100%, but he should take the responsibility and be the first one there to say, I was wrong. Let's fix that together. And I don't see it happening so far. He gave Nedved with his idea like 1.5 seasons before he decided it's not good enough. Let's go back to what I was trying to do. And what he is trying to do is not working. But how long till he admits it and we move on from that? And what will be the damage? That's my main question.
Yeah. And going back to the ticket thing, I think there was a miscommunication. $650 for the home, which is 19 matches.
33 euros a match.
Yeah, 34. So, but yeah, going with Omer, I mean, it's hard to clear him of everything, right, Ant? Like, I mean,
yeah, he's not without fault. That's for sure.
Yeah,
I posted a video. This was back in 2013 against Chelsea, and you can see him living the match. Jumps when opportunity knocks, celebrates goals, hugging everyone, and I just don't see that anymore. Even when we win and when we have a good game, when we had some with Pirlo and stuff, he's just sitting there looking at, I don't know what, money is on his mind. He became the businessman he was grown up to be, but he doesn't have the soul anymore, at least not from what I'm seeing on the pitch for the team to succeed and win. If they don't make money, they don't do well enough. That's what I'm seeing.
Could be time for some fresh faces and whatnot. One last one. We got room for one last one. Is there any way management survive a coaching change? With their bonehead idea, sign up a coach they hired 2 years prior on a 4-year deal, not having learned from having to pay out before. So is there any way we just move on, even if we make a coaching change, that nothing changes in that office? Do you expect some other heads to roll? I think it's way too early for Cherubini and Arriva Bene, right?
Yeah. Do we have bad players? We have some, but like, is our whole roster terrible? I think a coach with different ideas could do something with this roster. So management has installed. Pirlo did more with a lot less, but that doesn't necessarily mean Pirlo would do anything with this team, right? We just don't know.
It doesn't mean. But a coach change, when you change a manager, you see something different. You will always see something different. You never appoint a coach and see the exact same thing.
Right. So I think the management would stay, and I think there is a coach out there who could do something with this team for sure.
What's interesting is that for quite a bit throughout the summer in the Mercado, there was a lot of talks about another sporting director coming in. Mm-hmm. And I've always found that interesting because it was never really made clear what the follow-up was going to be, especially with Cherubini, Arriva Bene just coming in. So Cherubini would essentially be promoted to actually like more of a general manager of the whole project and overseeing all of it, so he could still keep tabs on the youth project and that movement and everything. And then you'd have a sporting director kind of dealing in the Mercado and those transfers with Cherubini again, overlooking everything and whatnot. So yeah, for me, if Agnelli remains around, stick to the goddamn business, but don't override the guys you've put in place to make the decisions about coaches and what happens on the field there. You can't have that disconnect. And he pretty much overrode everything by saying Pirlo in, and then he shifted on his own decision there and everything. And these guys, you know, Nedved's been taking the heat for so much. And it's like, well, it wasn't Nedved's decision to bring in Pirlo. You know, he came out and he faced the music and was at those interviews and everything, but Agnelli made these decisions. His hands are not clean. It's anybody's guess what the hell's got to happen. All I can say is that this team needs a lot of work. Di Maria is done facing his suspension. Thank God. Okay, we need him back. Chiesa, come back soon, brother, because we need you. Okay, this was a brutal one against Milan. Tuesday we have Maccabi in Champions League. We'll be back for the match day live. Okay, and then I just might be able to do a watch along, everybody. So we wait and see. Maccabi, we got to win that one. Okay. People already think it's done for Champions League, but you know what? Without belief, without, you know, hey, it's free to dream. I always say there's not many things free in life, but it's free to dream. Let's see what we can do. We got to take it one game at a time, everybody. And if there's one thing I can give to you out of this podcast, this episode, is just my expectations are I don't know what to expect from this team from one game to the next. I don't know what to expect from this team anymore. So I'm going to take it one game at a time. All right. And that's my recommendation to all of you. Anth, one game at a time, right?
That's it, baby. One game at a time.
One game at a
time. All we can
Omer, do. One game at a time.
Lift.
Yeah, that's it. That's it, everybody. One game at a time. Thank you again, everybody on live. One last reminder, hit that like button before we sign out. And after we shut this thing down, if you could just throw a hashtag Skanga out in the comment section to this video, that would be fantastic. All right. Don't forget, this is your last chance to get 15% off everything in our merch store. Okay. Thanks for your continued support, regardless of the results, regardless of what happens with Juve. Okay, we are not going anywhere. We're going to see what ends up happening, but big changes are needed. But right now, Di Maria, man, you've got a lot of pressure on you, my man. A lot of pressure. Let's see if he can deliver and help steer the ship in the right direction. All right. Till Tuesday, when we're going to be live, fino alla fine, forza Juve. Ciao tutti.